To the Supreme God, to the Great Divine Father, Great Divine Mother, thank you for your priceless blessings, for your divine light, divine love, divine guidance, divine love and mercy, inner healing and physical healing. Thank you for the inner strength to practice regularly. Thank you for the blessing of divine guidance, divine help, and divine protection, for illumination, for abundance, for prosperity. We thank you to our spiritual teacher, to all the great spiritual teachers, to all the great gods and goddesses, to all the great, great ones. We very, very humbly thank you for your great blessings. Gratitude, respect, love. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. All right. So we were studying a book called Living with the Himalayan Masters. We're roughly on the page number 137 out of 153. And this book is good. It is really, really good. Even if you're here for the first time, it doesn't matter because the book is divided into sections. Each section is independent of the section previous to it. So you can pretty much join whenever, and you will have as much fun as I think we had when we started reading it for the first time. It's completely as good. If there's any missing pieces, that I remember, I will tell you as we go along. Okay, let's go forward. So, the chapter today is, or the section is mastery over life and death. So, this is the section, 13th section. Under this section, there are many incidences that he quotes, like this is one incident, then something else. Okay, mastery over life and death. You are the architect of your destiny. Death and birth are merely two events of life. You have forgotten your essential nature, and that is the cause of your suffering. When you become aware of this, you are liberated. So cool, no? So all we have to do is we have to become aware of it. So easy. Birth and death are but two commas. I used to follow my master because he raised me from young age. But I was not always convinced of the truth of what he taught. When I was calm and quiet, doubts would often arise from deeper levels of my mind. I was directed by my master to visit various swamis. At first, I thought, I'm wasting my time. These are useless people. They are withdrawn from the world, sitting under the trees. Why do they do that? Slowly, I came to realize that first we should learn to doubt our own doubts and to analyze the very doubts themselves. Hey, it's a really good suggestion, no? We should learn to doubt our own doubts. What if our doubts are not really accurate? What if they are just doubtful doubts? And to analyze the very doubts themselves. When I was 17, I was sent to visit a certain sage who was a disciple of my master. But I did not know at that time. My master told me, if you really want to learn from a genuine Swami, go to this man and live with him. I was directed to go to a place near Gangotri where I found a Swami sitting in a cave. Never before had I seen such a beautifully formed body. At that age, I was interested in bodybuilding and physical strength and was envious of a body like his. He had a broad chest and a very small waist, and his muscles were very solid. I was amazed to learn that he was 85 years old. After I greeted him, the first thing I asked was, Sir, what do you eat here? I was preoccupied with food. After my experience at the college, I had become like a Westerner in the matter of food. Every day, each day, a variety of meals was available. I was always anticipating the various dishes to be enjoyed at pending meals. The Swami asked, Are you hungry? I replied that I was. He told me, Go to the corner of the cave where you will find some roots. Take one and bury it in the fire. In a few minutes, remove it and eat it. I did as I was told and found the roots was delicious. It tasted like milk over rice pudding. I could not eat the entire root. I was satisfied to know I could stay there for some time because there was something good to eat. After I had eaten, Swamiji said, I will not teach you through words. He said, I will not teach you through words. I sat by him for 3 days, and there was no conversation at all. On the third day, I decided that it was a waste of time and energy to stay with a man who was silent all the time. He was not teaching me anything. While I was thinking this, he said, "Boy, you were not sent to me to receive intellectual knowledge such as you can find in the books. You have come here to experience something. I'm going to leave my body the day after tomorrow." I could not understand why someone would choose voluntarily to leave his body. I said, "Sir, that will be suicide. It is not good for a sage like you to commit suicide." This was the kind of thing I had learned from studying in college. He said, "I'm not committing suicide. When you remove an old book cover and replace with another, you do not destroy the book. When you change your pillowcase, you do not destroy your pillow." At the age of 17, I was doubtful. I said, "You have a wonderful body. I wish I could have a body as beautiful as yours. Why are you discarding it? This is not good. It is a sin." In this way, I thought I was teaching him. He listened for some time without responding. After a while, my brother disciple came in. I exclaimed, "How did you get here? When I last saw you, you were far away from this place." He quietly took me aside and said, "Don't disturb him. You ask him silly questions. You don't understand sages. Let him peacefully leave his body." But I argued with my brother disciple. I said, "He has such a beautiful body. Why should he leave it? This cannot be yoga. This is simple suicide case. The police are far away from here, or I would have them arrest him. This is an illegal act." In spite of what my brother disciple and I remained sorry, in spite of what my brother disciple said, I remained doubtful and disapproving. When we went out for morning or evening evolutions, I would say this healthy man with such a beautiful body should go and show people how to build and maintain healthy bodies. He says, "I'm only seeing his body, that I should see something more." But what is that? My brother disciple, who was older than I, replied, "Calm down. There are many things you still must learn. Let us keep our minds open so that we may come to understand. There are many mysteries in life." The Swami wouldn't speak to me. So after 24 more hours, I said to my brother disciple, "I have not learned anything from silence, so I want to leave this place." He replied, "Why don't you witness the process by which he leaves the body?" I said, "This is a silly thing. I would rather die in a hospital under the care of a good doctor than die in a cave. What is this foolishness?" My idea was totally modern and materialistic. My brother disciple said, "You don't understand. You were asked to come here and sit. If you want to argue in your mind, you can do that. That is your business. I can't stop it, but don't disturb me." Finally, Swamiji spoke up. "Actually, I am not doing anything. When it is time for us to leave the body, we know it. We shouldn't stand in the way of nature. Death helps nature. We should not be afraid of death because nothing affects us. Don't you understand?" I said, "I don't want to die, so I don't want to understand." He said, "Your attitude is not good. Try to understand that what death is. Don't be afraid of it. We are afraid of many things, and that is not the way to live. Death does not annihilate you, it only separates you from a body." I retorted, "I don't want to exist without my body." He continued, "Death is a habit of the body. No one can live in this same body forever. It is subject to change, death, decay. You have to understand this. Very few people know the technique of gaining freedom from their clinging to life. That technique is called yoga. It is not the yoga that is popular in the modern world, but is the highest stage of meditation. Once you know the right technique of meditation, You have command over the other functions of your body, mind, and soul. It is through prana and breath that a relationship is established between mind and body. When the breath ceases functioning, the link breaks, and that separation is called death. But you still exist. I asked, how does one feel existing without a body? He replied, how do you feel when you go without a shirt? It's nothing. But no matter what he said, he did not philosophically or logically convince me, for I still had an immature mind in many ways. The day before he was to depart his body, he gave us instructions. Early in the morning at 5, I will leave my body. I want you to immerse in the Ganges. Can you both do that? I replied, of course, I can do it alone. I picked him up. I picked him up by myself to demonstrate. The Ganges was not far away, just a few hundred yards. Much of that night, I remained awake, trying to understand the motives of this man's voluntary discarding such a good and beautiful body. We regularly got up at 3 a.m. From 3 to 6 is considered the best time for meditation, so we would go to bed between 8 and 10 and get up at 3. But that morning we all awoke even earlier and began talking together. The Swami said, tell me what you wish. Whatever you wish, I promise to fulfill it. I replied, you are dying. What can you do for me? He said, boy, for a genuine teacher, nothing like death really happens. A teacher can guide his students even after death. Then he turned to my brother disciple and asked, isn't he a headache for you? My brother disciple said, indeed, yes, but what can I do? Between 5 and 5:30, we were still talking when the Swami suddenly said, now sit in meditation. In 5 minutes, I will leave my body. Its time is over. The instrument, which is called body, is not capable of giving me more than what I have already attained. So I will leave it behind. 5 minutes later, he sang out, Om, and then there was silence. I checked his pulse and heartbeat. I thought he may have suspended his pulse and heartbeat for some time and might start breathing again. When I checked his body temperature, his eyes, and all that, my brother disciple said, enough of that. We have to immerse his body before the sun rises. I told him, don't worry, I'll do it myself. But he said, I want help. When we both tried to lift him, we found that we could not budge his body. Then we brought a branch from a pine tree and inserted it under his thighs to pry him loose, but we failed. We tried everything we could think of for over an hour, but could not move him an inch. I often recall what happened next. I shall never forget the experience. A few minutes before sunrise, I heard someone say, now we will carry him. So, like somebody just out of the air said, now we will carry him. There was no one around, so I thought perhaps I am imagining it. My brother disciple also looked around. I asked, did you hear something? He said, yes, I also heard it. I asked, are we hallucinating? What is going on? Suddenly, the Swami's body rose into the air, apparently of its own accord, and slowly moved towards the Ganges. It floated in the air above for a few hundred yards and then lowered and sank into the Ganges. I was shocked and could not assimilate the experience for a long time. When people talked of miracles some Swami was alleged to have performed, I always said there is some trick in it. But when I saw this levitating body with my own eyes, it very quickly changed my attitude. When I returned to the monastery, several Swamis were engaged in a discussion. The subject was, if God really created and watches over this world, then why was there so much misery? One Swami said, this physical universe is only one aspect of existence. We have the ability to know other aspects, but we don't make sincere efforts to realize this ability. Our minds remain focused on the physical body only. Man is suffering because he does not know the whole. What they said inspired me. I now began to listen with genuine interest and found that my uncertainties were gradually resolved by what they were saying. When I compare the materialistic world with the lifestyle of the sages, I find the former, which means materialistic world, concrete, emphasizing that which can be seen, touched, and grasped. But the lifestyle and atmosphere in which the sages live, though non materialistic, is more realistic as far as the object of the life is concerned. See, this is what they're saying. The materialistic world has really great stuff to offer to you when it comes to um, lifestyle, right? बट जहां तक बात आती है उसकी क्या बोलते हैं लाइफ ऑफ द सेजेस द वे दे लिव वो उसका ओरिएंटेशन मोर टुवर्ड्स अपग्रेडिंग द क्वालिटी ऑफ लाइफ के साइड पे है मतलब आपकी लाइफ को कैसे अपग्रेड किया जाए या लाइफ को कैसे बेहतर बनाया जाए उस साइड पे है न कि लाइफस्टाइल में कंफर्ट आता है बहुत तरह की चीजें आती है ना कन्वीनियंस कंफर्ट फैसिलिटीज लग्जरी इस साइड पे कुछ नहीं है वो इस साइड पे आप द रियल यू उसको कैसे बेहतर बनाया जाए उस पे फोकस रहता है सो कंप्लीटली डिफरेंट थिंग्स बट दे ऑल नीड टू वर्क टुगेदर एट अ पॉइंट ऑफ टाइम बट वाओ ओके सो इट सेज कि द वर्ल्ड ऑफ means matlab material means also has some value in it, but without awareness of the absolute reality, everything is in vain. Ordinary men regard certain aspects of life as mysterious or mystical. Such mysteries are easily solved when the veil of ignorance is removed. The technique of dying is not known to the modern scientists, but in yoga, science, such techniques are described and imparted to those who are prepared to practice them. The mystery of death and birth are revealed to a fortunate few. The known part of life is a line which is stretched between these 2 points, birth and death. The vast portion of one's existence remains unknown and invisible beyond these two known points. One who understands the unknown part of the life knows that this lifespan is like a comma in a vast sentence which has no period. In the ancient yoga scriptures, it is said that there is a definite way of leaving the body. 11 gates are described through which the prana or subtle energy can exit. The yogi learns to leave through the gate called Brahmarandhara, located at the fontanelle, the crown of the head. It is said that he who travels through this gate remains conscious and knows about life hereafter exactly as he knows life here. So I think ये जो 11 गेट्स की बात कर रहे हैं 11 गेट्स ये आई थिंक आपके 11 चक्रस हैं सबसे ऊपर का जो चक्र है इसको बोलते हैं ब्रह्मरंध्रा या फिर क्राउन चक्र सो सोल अगर आप कभी डीप मेडिटेशन भी करेंगे ट्विन हार्ट्स मेडिटेशन या फिर सोल मेडिटेशन जो कि प्राणिक हीलिंग में सिखाई जाती है उसमें जो है आई थिंक ट्विन हार्ट्स मेडिटेशन एक टेक्निक है जहाँ पे कि क्राउन के एक्टिवेशन के बाद सोल बॉडी से एग्जिट करने की क्षमता रख सकती है मतलब इट कैन एक्चुअली मूव अराउंड इन द इनर वर्ल्ड वो जो शक्ति होती है उसकी वो या जिसकी पावर जो होती है वो क्राउन चक्र के खुलने पे आती है राइट तो उसकी एबिलिटी ट्विन हार्ट्स मेडिटेशन से मिलती है नेक्स्ट सेक्शन इसका एटीट्यूड टुवर्ड्स डाइंग You are the architect of your life. You build your own philosophy and construct your own attitudes. Without right attitudes, the entire architecture remains shaky. When one starts realizing this fact, then he starts looking within, transforming himself and becoming aware of many levels of consciousness. He then finds strength within himself Inner strength is a source of fulfillment. See, he finds then strength within himself. Inner strength is a source of fulfillment. The sages have proven this fact, but modern man does not understand it. He is still searching and seeking happiness in the external world. When I was young, I also thought that the source of happiness lay in the external objects of the world. One day, my master sent me to a house of which, अच्छा हाँ, इससे मुझे याद है एक बार जब वो हीरे जवाहरात की जब बात हुई थी, एक बार बहुत पहले की बात है, आई थिंक अभी, अब मतलब काफी पहले की स्टोरी है कि इसके मास्टर जो हैं, मतलब स्वामी रामा के जो मास्टर हैं, बंगाली बाबा के नाम से हैं, वो इनको एक गुफा, मतलब इनकी जो केव है उसके बाहर लेके गए। एंड ये बोला कि चलो एक काम करो, तुमको जितना कुछ चाहिए ना, जितना भी गोल्ड डायमंड चाहिए, आई गिव यू राइट नाउ। तो मिला कि वो पत्थर के पीछे जाओ और जाके देख लो, एंड वहां पे लिटरली एक बड़े सा ऐसा एक पतीला टाइप का पड़ा हुआ था, और उसमें आज तक के देखे गए सबसे सबसे बड़े डायमंड्स आज तक के देखे गए, मतलब वो ह्यूज रियल डायमंड्स। एंड स्वामी रामन ने देख के बोला कि ये तो मतलब कुछ भी नहीं है, तो ये आपको खाली ये मतलब मजाक कर रहे हो, ये असली, ये रियल थोड़ी ना है। तो बोलता है कि नहीं बच्ची, ये रियल है, अगर तुम्हें चाहिए यू टेक इट और तुम चले जाओ, मतलब ये पाथ तुम्हारे लिए नहीं है। फिर अगर तुम चले गए आज यहाँ से इसको लेके, देन तुम्हारा मेरा रिश्ता मतलब एज गुड एज ओवर है। अगर तुम आज, मतलब मैं तुम्हें रोकूंगा नहीं, वो बोल रहे हैं कि तुम इसको ले एंड लिव अ वेरी गुड लग्जूरियस लाइफ, तुमको कोई प्रॉब्लम नहीं, बट यू डू दिस, ओके। एंड ही वाज लाइक कि ना, दैट इज द डे ही रियलाइज कि ही डिडंट एक्चुअली वांट टू टेक इट। सामने पड़ा था, दिख रहा था, पर लेने का मन नहीं कर रहा था। ये अंदर से कॉलिंग आती है कि जाके उसको ले लो। ये ना कुछ इनिशियल टेस्ट होते हैं जो कि ग्रेट मास्टर्स देते हैं डिसाइपल्स को, समथिंग लाइक दैट। सो द ग्रेट मास्टर के लिए, उसके लिए इट वाज नथिंग टू मटेरियलाइज large diamonds and all that, कुछ भी नहीं था actually, but for Swami Rama he was like like wow and stuff, no, कितना मतलब जो फैंसी था। सो यही है यहाँ पे है कि ना, when I was young I also thought that the source of happiness lay in the external world, external objects of the world. One day my master sent me to the house of a rich man who was on his deathbed. When I arrived, this rich man said, "Sir, give me your blessings." He was immense, he was immersed in sorrow and full of tears. I asked him, "Why are you crying like a poor and helpless child?" He answered, "I wish I could be a child. Now I realize I am the poorest and the weakest man in the world. All the comforts and riches are at my disposal, but nothing seems to help me. All is in vain." I could easily see the effects of inner poverty in that rich man. I have since studied many dying people, including poets, writers, philosophers, and political leaders, but always found that they were all miserable on their deathbed. Their clinging to life and their attachment to the objects of the world made them miserable. Those who are aware of the immortality within are free and unattached to the objects of the world. They leave their mental body in a positive state of mind. The literature written on the life of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu reveals that the room in which he lived vibrated the chant. अच्छा एक बात बताइए आप लोग, कल लास्ट टाइम हमने जब पढ़ा था कि एक बहुत ही सीक्रेट टाइप की बुक थी जो कि स्वामी रामा ने जाके पढ़ ली थी, वो टिबेटियन मोनास्ट्री में, क्या नाम था उसका? लास्ट टाइम जो हमने पढ़ा था क्या नाम था उसका, किसी किसी को याद है? What was the name of the secret book that was discovered by Swami Rama, which was, I guess, anybody went and researched कि लिंग पुराण में क्या है exactly? I asked specifically all of you guys to go and see what is so powerful as in that. How many of you guys actually did that, or none of you did that? Come on. सी, इसमें ना आपको थोड़ा थोड़ा अपना एफर्ट भी डालना पड़ेगा यार। वेरी यूजफुल टू पुट इन योर ओन एफर्ट्स ऑल्सो। चलिए आगे चलते हैं. The literature written on the life of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu reveals that the room in which he lived vibrated the chant he repeated after his death. I once had such an experience in the city of Kanpur. There is a family of doctors whose mother was a great devotee of the Lord. She was my initiate. Matlab, Swami Rama initiated this lady, okay? 6 months before her death, she decided to live in a room by herself, remembering the Lord's name and meditating. After 6 months, she fell sick and became bedridden. The time of her parting seemed imminent. Her older son, Dr. A. N. Tandon, was very much attached to his mother. He wanted to remain by her side. His mother said, I don't want you to be attached to me. Don't sit next to me anymore. I've done my duties towards you. I've walked all alone during the journey. Your attachment will not help me in any way. Ordinarily, dying people become lonely and frightened. A sense of false security grows, and they become deeply attached to their children and things they possess. But this woman was constantly at peace, completely absorbed in the name of the Lord. She said to her sons, I am in great joy. Your attachment towards me has no power to hold me on this mortal plane. Her son started weeping bitterly. He said, Mother, I love you immensely. Don't you still love me? What has happened to you, my dear mother? She replied, That which was expected to happen has already happened. I am a free soul now, in great joy. I am a wave of bliss in the ocean of the universe. I am free from all fears and anxieties. You're still attached to my mortal body, but I have now known that this body is just a shell. Do you call it mother? I was present there. She wouldn't allow anyone to sit in that room but me. 5 minutes before her death, she smilingly whispered in my ear, These people think that I've lost my mind, but they do not know how much I have gained. Then she asked me to call all the family members. She raised her hand and blessed them and then left for her heavenly abode. After her death, the walls of the room in which she lived vibrated with the sound of her mantra. Anyone who came would feel the sound being vibrated from those walls. Someone informed me the walls of that house were still radiating her mantra. I could not believe it, so I visited her house and I discovered that the sound of the mantra was still vibrating there. A mantra is a syllable or a word or a set of words. When consciously someone remembers this mantra, it is automatically stored in the unconscious mind. Though ordinarily one does not remain aware of this fact, during the day of parting, when the mind is failing and stops functioning, attachment towards body and other possessions of the world makes one horribly lonely and miserable. During such a period, that which one has stored, there is in the unconscious mind, becomes one's guide. This period of separation is painful to the ignorant. This is not the case with the spiritual person who has remembered his mantra faithfully. The mantra guides him through the period of transition, which is frightening to the ignorant. Death is not painful, but the fear of death is very painful. The mantra is a very powerful support and guide, which leads a dying person peacefully through that door, through the unknown period of darkness. Mantra then becomes a torch bearer when one goes through the corridor that exists between death and birth. Constantly being aware of the mantra with complete faith is one of the surest methods. All the spiritual traditions of the world use this method. I purified and trained a purified and trained mind with the help of the mantra awareness dispels the darkness during the period of transition. Mantra is a rare friend indeed, which helps one whenever it is needed, both here and hereafter. By remembering the mantra constantly, the aspirant creates deep grooves in the unconscious, and then the mind flows spontaneously in those grooves. Mantra is a spiritual guide which dispels the fear of death and leads one fearlessly to the other shore of life. It is an accepted fact of the yogis that the mind is like a garment. They believe that when the garment is no longer useful, it can be cast off consciously without any fear or misery. This way of casting off the body is not unusual for them. I was fortunate to have witnessed such case during the Kumbh Mela at Allahabad. Kumbh Mela is a festival of sages which is celebrated every 12 years. Many sages and learned people assemble on the holy banks of the Ganga, holy banks of the Ganga, um, to share their experiences and knowledge with all those who attend. This festival lasts for a month. All religious people of India, for a month, I should also go. All religious people of India like to enjoy this spiritual gathering. I think, if I'm not wrong, just correct me. 2011, 11 or somewhere around that, there was a Mahakumbh, right? If you guys know, was it a Mahakumbh in 2011 or was it just a normal Kumbh Mela? Any of you guys know? Do you guys follow this? Anybody know who knows exactly what I'm saying? If you can raise your hand, I'll quickly unmute you. Which means what I'm trying to ask is when is in okay, there's somebody. So when is the next Kumbh Mela and what was in 2011?
So
I'm sorry. Can you unmute yourself again?
So it was Mahakumbh. Now the Earth Kumbh was in 2018, and again it was around, I think, 12 plus 24. Or I think 26 is again the Mahakumbh. It's every 12 years is Mahakumbh, and Earth Kumbh is every 6 years.
So 2011 plus 12 years will make it 2023.
No, it was in 12. It was not in 11. It was in 12. So maybe next year January, because it started in January month. Mahakumbh is always in January month. It is around the Sakranti.
So I think if some of you, thank you, Pooja, thank you so much. So some of you guys are interested in attending an event like this. Maybe it's coming, maybe, perhaps next year, most likely. So, worthy in every sense, or maybe this year, I don't know, next year or this year. Good to take advantage of this opportunity. And if you know somebody who's already been to a place like this, feel free to actually go. Yeah. 1 month, huh? Something to remember how Babaji appeared himself in front of Yukteswar Giri in a Kumbh Mela, right? Also, I think, if I'm not wrong, once I think one more stage I think also met Babaji in Kumbh Mela. You may also find Babaji, so we never know unless we go there. Anyways. So, yeah, during this time, I was staying in a garden house situated on a bank of the holy Ganges. Early one morning, about 3 o'clock, I was informed that Vinay Maharaj had decided to cast off his body punctually at 4:30. This Swami was a student of my master. I immediately rushed to the hut where he was staying. There, he talked to me for half an hour, discussing the higher practices of Yoga Vedanta. There were 6 other Swamis sitting around him. Exactly at 4:30, after explaining the technique of the voluntarily casting of the body, he bade goodbye to us, saying, God bless you. We'll meet on the other side. Thus he was silent. He closed his eyes and became still. We all heard the sound tick come from his skull. This was the sound of the cracking of the skull. This process is called casting of the body through Brahmarandhara. We later immersed his body in the Ganges. There have been many such occasions when I witnessed yogi casting of the body consciously. Wow, the mela looks really big, yeah. Modern man knows how to eat, talk, wear clothes, and live in society. He also knows how to prepare the expectant mother to give a safe birth and has discovered the painless method of labor. But modern man has not yet learned the techniques of casting of the body voluntarily and joyfully. During the time of death, he becomes miserable and experiences many psychological pains. Our modern society, though highly evolved technologically, is still ignorant of the many mysteries of life and death. Modern man has not yet discovered the resources which are already within him. Death is a habit of the body, a necessary change. The dying man should be educated psychologically for this moment. See, this is what our spiritual teacher Mathacho also says, that a dying man should be educated about the process of the death. And my teacher, our teacher also says that it's very important to educate the old man or the person who's about to die so that they can take advantage of this opportunity and cross over the plains of suffering completely. That is called the opportunity or the moment of mercy given by the lords of karma. So they should be taught how to die properly. Dying is just a process. It's nothing very big, actually. Just a process, that's all. So it says that the dying man should be educated psychologically for this moment. This inevitable change in death This inevitable change called death is itself not painful, but the fear of death creates miseries for the dying man. There are many aspects of education imparted to modern man for his success in the world, but no one imparts a knowledge which gives him freedom from the fear of death. It is essential for human beings to find out the way of comforting the dying. The techniques of casting off the body. I, along with two friends, started a journey from Gangotri to Badrinath. It was July, the traveling season of the clouds. We took a narrow, zigzag footpath, an unusual route which was known only to a few yogis and sages. It took us 4 days to travel the 25 miles on foot from Gangotri to Badrinath using this route, while it would have taken many more days using the much longer ordinary one. As we passed through the snow blanketed peaks at 12,000 feet, nature, though it seemed to be cruel, gave us a vision of the beauty of the Himalayas, which I had not seen before. We halted for the night 9 miles from Gangotri on the other side of the Ganges. From this place lies Bhojbasa, where grow the trees whose bark is used for writing scriptures. The next morning, before we started going towards Gomukh, the source of the Ganges, Gomukh. Nice, nice. In an attempt to cross the mountain to Badrinath via this unusual and unknown route, a young Swami from Madras who lived on the other side of the Ganges met us. His language was Tamil, which is spoken in the southern states of India. He could communicate with us only in broken Hindi. He had studied for several days with Swami Tapodhana, Tapodhanamji, a very learned scholar and austere person of the Himalayas. The four of us continued our journey to Gomukh at the foot of the mountain glaciers from where the Ganges flow. We had a small tent, a few biscuits, and some popped corns. At Gomukh, we met a Swami called Hansji, and he joined us. Beyond this point, no yogi or Swami lives. Hansji lived there every summer. He had been a naval officer. He became disgusted with his sailor's life and had gone in search of the yogis and sages of the Himalayas. As a young man of 35 years, he accepted the life of renunciation and was known in this area for his calm, gentle, and loving nature. The next day, we bade goodbye to Hansji, who was actually not in favor of our adventurous expedition to Badrinath through this unknown route. We camped at the height of 16,000 feet that day, and the next day at the height of 18,000 feet. Traveling became more difficult without any respiratory equipment because the air is thinner at higher elevations. The 3 days we traveled were like walking on the space just above the roof of the world, from where you can see the clean blue sky with twinkling stars hung high on the pillars of the glory. Our tent was very small, and with the help of our warm clothing and body heat radiation, we passed this crucial night breathing shallowly in the cold wind and snow. At midnight, the young Swami who had joined us on the way made a decision to cast off his body there high in the Himalayas. The Tamil speaking Swami, right? He did not do this out of frustration, but perhaps because he knew that his time was in the world was over. In deep snows, if one gradually removes his clothing, a time comes when the whole body becomes painless and insensitive. It is true that in the deep snow of the high Himalayan mountains, one becomes numb and insensitive. I collected this evidence from various scriptures, sages, and even books written by Westerners who go to the Himalayas for peak hunting. But the yoga way of casting of the body is done through a proper technique. Letting oneself freeze while in samadhi is a traditional way of dying for a particular sect of Himalayan yogis. It is called Hima Samadhi. Hima Samadhi. The word samadhi is frequently used by Patanjali's system of yoga for the highest state of tranquility. But according to the Himalayan custom, the various methods which are used for consciously casting off the body are also called samadhi. So, samadhi basically, I think, is used in two ways. One is achievement of, um, um, a high state of tranquility. How do we describe that, by the way? Um, it's called contemplation, by the way, according to Theosophy. When you're in deep state of contemplation, that's called samadhi. Also, leaving the body is also called samadhi. I think Masachi Kokusui in the book Achieving Oneness with the Higher Soul has talked about it. We'll find some time and mention that. Next, among themselves, yogis and sages usually use this word in the sense of he has taken Mahasamadhi, meaning he has cast off his body. We did not want to leave this young Swami there all alone and tried to persuade him to come with us. But for lack of knowledge of Tamil, we could not communicate and convince him. We were with him until 10 o'clock in the morning, but our advice and persuasion would not work. He had already made the decision to voluntarily leave his body in the land of Devas. So, leaving him behind, we went ahead and reached Badrinath after 2 days. Yudhishthir, a prominent character of Mahabharata, also went to the Himalayas during his last days. He told his wife that he was going to meet the gods and then go on to his final abode. We parted at the shrine, and I went to my mountain home, Badrinath. Oh, acha, he went to his home actually, mountain home, to his teacher, I think. The way of casting of the body is one of the ways which many ancients accepted willingly. But there are various other ways of doing this also. One is called Jal Samadhi and is done inside the deep waters of the river of the Himalayas by retaining the breath. Sthal Samadhi is done by sitting in an accomplished posture and consciously opening the fontanelle. The technique of dying, which are used by yogis, are very methodical, painless, and conscious. This is unusual in the Western world, but only in the Himalayas. But not only in the Himalayas. It is not like committing suicide. It is an exact process or way of leaving the body that which is no longer an instrument for enlightenment. Such a body is considered to be a burden, an obstacle which might obstruct the journey of the dying man when he goes through his vast unconscious reservoir of memories. Only those are normal methods of dying. Sorry, only those who are not competent in higher techniques and not self reliant on their yoga willpower and control except the normal methods of dying, which are definitely inferior to the yoga methods. There is another very rare way of casting off the body by meditating on the solar plexus. The actual internal flame of the fire burns the body in a fraction of a second, and everything is reduced to ashes. This knowledge was imparted by Yama, the king of death, to his beloved disciple Nachiketa in the Kathopanishad. All over the world, instances of spontaneous combustion are often heard about, and people wonder about such occurrences. But the ancient scriptures, such as Mahakali Nidhi, explains this method systematically. There's, I think, one more method taught by, I think, maybe Master Choa. I think I'm not sure. But Amit had once told us another technique, but then this is not the group where we're supposed to talk about it. Anyway, let's go forward. Birth and death are two events in life which are considered to be very minor according to the yogis and sages of the Himalayas. Modern men tried their best to discover the mystery of birth. They did so and can now prepare for that pleasurable event, but for lack of real philosophy behind life, they do not understand or know the technique of dying and thus cannot prepare themselves. For yogi, death is a habit of the body and a change like other changes that occur in the process of growth. Modern men could receive this training, and then there would be less misery in old age when they find themselves completely isolated and ignored by the rest of the society. I wonder why modern people do not explore other dimensions, ways, and methods of gaining freedom from that fear which is called death. The Western world, in spite of having enough literature on the subject, is still looking for a solution. Nonetheless, people have now started talking to the general public on the subject, but no book explains the techniques for dying. Yoga literature and practices which are neither religious nor cultural could be verified scientifically and then used to comfort dying and suffering people. So, do you by the way know that there is this recent thing which is going on, I think, in Switzerland, where people are basically saving, or in a sense, cryogenically saving the dead bodies, right? I'm hoping you guys have at least known of this. So the dead bodies of people who have passed away are being cryogenically saved. Ki when the technique of reviving the body is available, these are the bodies in which you can test on, for example. So in the cryo atmosphere, I think of one minus 196 degrees or something, very, very cold temperature. I'm not sure the exact temperature, but very, very cold temperature. They're saving the bodies properly. You know, so the bodies don't decompose at all. The cell functionality is suspended for some time, things like that, right? So that's being discovered right now. But how do you ensure? See, those guys don't have a concept of soul at the moment because they can't touch, feel, and see it, right? But even if you consider that as a say possible option, it's possible to save a body. How do you ensure the same soul will come which left the body? Could be anybody else who comes. Remember the book called Soul's Growth Through Reincarnation, Lives of Alcyon? Remember that one, right? In that book, two examples were given where, for example, lives of Orion, yeah. So Orion, at a certain point of time, was so attached to her child that her child, which was truly loved by her, I think, very young child, was playing and he fell and I think he died or something, or maybe he drowned, I think, and he died. The kid died. So she, in a really desperate act, made an invocation at that time, like a powerfully emotional invocation, and a soul which was said to be a bad soul or like an unfriendly soul, or yeah, वो soul जिससे इसका बनता नहीं था, that soul came and took, like, plugged the seeds back in. So the soul now living in the body of the child was a completely different soul than the one living before. उसकी वजह से क्या हुआ कि the problem in the families became too much and the child pretty much became an embarrassment for the next whatever life that the parents had to live. But through this also they worked out a lot of karma. A lot of karma worked out through this process also. And the souls का जो bonding था, they got neutralized to a good degree. Second example was of a black magician who was invoked by the green emerald necklace. Remember? So she was about to be terminated. क्या नाम है? Orion in a certain life, and she threw that necklace, and then she basically invoked the black magician, which was connected to the necklace, the green emerald necklace. And he said, "Okay, I can save you, but you have to give this necklace to somebody else." And she took the necklace off, threw towards the king's daughter, very young daughter, right? And the king's daughter took it and wore it, by the way, because she was a small kid playing. And immediately this lady fell down, and that king's so-called daughter just like was like this soul was plugged over there now immediately. And so the black magician was able to somehow pull the seeds out of the previous soul and put the seeds in of this soul somehow. So some technique which I don't know, but yeah. So and मतलब ये लेडी जो है she continued to live in that body now basically. And but वो emerald का वो संभाल के रखा वगैरह जो कुछ भी है, but some fancy stuff happened in this way. So it's possible, in certain senses it's possible. एक और अच्छी स्टोरी भी है. So मुझे कुंभ मेले के बारे में मालूम तब हुआ था जबकि आई थिंक जब मैं आईआईएससी से पास आउट करने के बाद जब मैं टाटा में गया था कुछ समय के लिए एज मैनेजर, 2011 की बात है. एंड वहां पे देयर वाज वन पर्सन हु सिट राइट नेक्स्ट टू मी, माय कॉलीग. हर फादर वाज सिक्योरिटी इन चार्ज ऑफ दीज काइंड ऑफ इवेंट्स, राइट? तो एक बार क्या हुआ था कि इसके फादर, मतलब ही वाज witnessing some sadhu leaving the body, or sorry, a very young man dying. बाकी फादर उसके फ्रेंड्स जो मतलब वहां के जो वर्कर्स थे वो लाश को उठा के जलाने के लिए लेके जा रहे थे. सो वेरी मतलब जब बिल्कुल पास से पहुंच गए थे तो एक वेरी ओल्ड साधु केम रनिंग 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 रनिंग, ऐसे कि अरे इसको मत जलाओ, इसको मत जलाओ, इसको मत जलाओ करके, ठीक है. एंड अब वो तो बिल्कुल फेंकने वाला था इसको, मतलब उसके अंदर. एंड व्हेन द साधु रीच सफिशिएंटली क्लोज, मतलब 10 मीटर के दायरे में आ गया था वो लाश के, देन साधु dropped here and that person woke up. Basically, this was the eyewitness. And she says कि जब मेरे पापा ने मुझे बताया, बिकॉज उसके पापा बहुत ही प्रैक्टिकल टाइप के आदमी, उनको ये सब में उतना वो है भी नहीं. जब ना when you undergo an experience like this, उसके बाद लगता है कि क्या क्या रियलिटी है, क्या और क्या रियलिटी नहीं है. फर्क ही पता नहीं होता एक टाइम के बाद एक्चुअली. मतलब ये है कि आई थिंक सो कि हमको जितना दिखता है उससे तो मतलब कहीं ज्यादा बड़ी चीज एक्चुअली हो, मतलब लाइफ में हो रही हैं या होती रहती हैं. जितने जितने वेरिएबल्स इफेक्ट डालते हैं वो वी नो आइडिया. आपको याद है वो स्वामी रामा के जो गुरु हैं बंगाली बाबा, जब वो एक स्टोरी थी इसमें ना कि जब वो एक स्टेशन मास्टर के पास गए थे बोलते हुए कि मैं और मेरा बच्चा थोड़े भूखे हैं, मतलब मी एंड माय स्टूडेंट वी आर वेरी हंग्री, आप खाना देंगे? तो बोलते कि हाँ मैं आपको खाना दूंगा वगैरह वगैरह. अच्छा चलिए मेरे घर चलिए. और घर में वो स्टेशन मास्टर की वाइफ बोलती है क्या है, हमारा बच्चा इतने 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 टाइम से बीमार है, तुम्हें हमारे बच्चे की कोई चिंता नहीं है, इनको तुम खाना खिलाने के लिए यहाँ पे ले आए हो, क्या मजाक है वगैरह वगैरह. बहुत गुस्से में थी एक्चुअली वो. और वो बोलती थी कि ना कि जो है इन लोगों से बोलो कि मेरे बच्चे को ठीक करें, है ना. सो एंड So, Bengali Baba, the great teacher, he was like, Madam, can I please have a glass of water? And वो अंदर जाती है, glass of water लेके आती है, and he holds a glass of water, circles around the kid 3 times, and all the smallpox, sorry, or the acne on the skin, not acne exactly, smallpox था ना या chicken pox था, क्या था? Some pox was there, completely disappears, obviously goes inside the water, and he drinks that water. And everything that was there on the kid starts to appear on his face and his skin. That is a remarkable question. How did he do it? Which actually helps you understand that the reality is not exactly what it seems. It's not only what we can see, feel, and touch. Otherwise, religions would never exist in the first place. I mean, the fundamental fact is that you can't ever see a God, the one that you prayed. It's practically impossible unless you become enlightened. And when you become enlightened, you will know, oh, this was not even the God that you were praying to. You know what I'm trying to say? It's a fundamentally different thing. It's just ridiculous. All of us believe in the laws that we can't see. We can just experience them on a daily basis. Science works on law of gravity. They can calculate it, they can measure it, they can use it, they can work against by putting anti-gravity pads, but they can't actually, like, they don't actually know what gravity is. I mean, they can talk about it, everyone can talk about it, but to actually know gravity, you have to be gravity. To actually know anything, you have to be that, right? So after a while, you will actually realize that the whole game is a game of consciousness. Unless you're conscious of your true self, you can't be conscious of anybody else or anything else or any phenomenon also. Yeah. I know Sai Baba. We can try reading some of his stories some other time also. Chaliye, the Baba's story also very, very true. Yeah. Closing prayer, say, to the Supreme God, Divine Father, Divine Mother, thank you for your great blessings. Thank you to a great spiritual teacher, to all the great spiritual teachers, to all the great gods and goddesses, to all the great, great ones, to the great Swami Rama, to the great Bengali Baba. We very, very humbly thank you for your great blessings, to all the great sages of the Himalayas. We're extremely, extremely grateful to you for all the protection, for all the guidance, for all the mercy, healing, help, and protection. Thank you so much. Everyone, take care. See you next Saturday. God bless all of you. Bye bye.